Blackleg Sanji is the best chef in the entire world of One Piece, and one day he is going to find the All Blue. He constantly clashes with Zoro and is always portrayed to be close to his level of strength. But how strong is Sanji exactly? With his new Kryptonian upgrades, I think it is safe to say Sanji is still the coolest character.
オールブルーって知ってるか？いや。なんだ知らねえのかよ。
When talking about Sanji, it is impossible to power scale him without the Zoro and Sanji rivalry affecting things. Some people believe that Zoro and Sanji are absolutely equal, and I don't agree with this. So let's break down the portrayal in order to understand the argument. Zoro and Sanji fight constantly, and many fans take this at face value and immediately assume that Sanji is equal to Zoro. Since Sabaody Archipelago, Oda has been portraying Luffy, Law, and Kid as rivals. However, this rivalry is a complete joke because Law and Kid don't even come close to Luffy in terms of strength, military power, and achievements. For starters, when we talk about accolades, Luffy has defeated multiple warlords, fought in the War of the Best, freed multiple nations from tyrants, and punched a celestial dragon directly in the face in front of many people, stolen the poneglyph from an emperor and slapped two of her commanders, and successfully defeated a Yonko in a 1v1 battle. Now, comparing that to Kid and Law, Kid has been passed around by the emperors and getting ragdolled everywhere he goes. He went to fight Shanks and got his arm ripped off, and now in the Wano War, Kid finally shows up to fight Kaido. Two of his allies leave his side and they join Kaido. One of them gets drugged with a smile fruit. Kid gets locked in jail and wasn't able to defeat Kaido and Big Mom without the help of the Alliance. When it comes to Law, he got beat by Doflamingo and Dressrosa, the same Doflamingo that Luffy absolutely destroyed. Law also managed to destroy the Smile Factory on Punk Hazard, and he finally gets to Wano and needed help to knock off an Emperor who was honestly being nerfed through most of the arc, while Luffy was going toe-to-toe with someone who's even stronger than Big Mom. So in comparison to Luffy, Kid and Law are absolute jokes, which is why this rivalry is not really that serious in my opinion, because it is painfully obvious that Luffy is more powerful than both of them. Now the reason I bring this up is because I want to show that just because characters have a rivalry does not mean they will always be equal. Whitebeard and Roger have a rivalry, and they are stated to be literal equals, but they also have the feats to back it up. Zoro and Sanji are shown to be at each other's necks all the time, and while I do think Sanji is close, I definitely think Zoro is more powerful. Now the problem with looking at portrayal is that it can be interpreted however you want. Since Zoro and Sanji are shown fighting each other throughout the story, some people use this to say they are equal. However, there are many characters portrayed this way as I just explained, but it is always obvious which character is stronger. In all of the One Piece arcs, Zoro fights the second strongest and Sanji fights the third strongest. If Oda really wanted to portray them as equals, he could have had them switch off every once in a while, but Oda makes sure the formula stays the same. In my opinion, the most important part about portrayal has to do with the character themselves. Zoro is on a mission to become one of the strongest characters in the entire series. Sanji has put an effort to becoming more powerful in order to elevate Luffy, but his dream and ambition does not come from getting stronger. One thing I want to emphasize is that portrayal has to be used with reason. It doesn't really make sense to say that Sanji is equal to Zoro just because they fight all the time. That same logic could be applied to Kid, Law, and Luffy. They compete every time they see each other, even in the Wano arc, but it's very obvious that Luffy is significantly more powerful. Now I think it's a good time to talk about the feats because this ties into the difference in Zoro and Sanji's ambition. The difference in ambition is the main reason Zoro has conquers Haki and Sanji does not. And as Kaido said in chapter 1047, abilities alone are not enough to conquer the world. Haki transcends all, but I'll get into that later. Ever since the beginning of the story, Zoro has always fought the second strongest while Sanji fights the third strongest. So even in the Wano arc, comparing Zoro and Sanji's feats, it doesn't get any better. If we compare King and Queen, it is obvious that King is more powerful than Queen because he's the first commander, he's more durable, he's faster, and he looks to have better attack power. And off the bat, even with his Kryptonian upgrades, it took Sanji more than 10 attacks to drop Queen. Now, compare this to Zoro, who was fighting someone stronger and more durable than Queen, and he only needed 3 attacks to finish him off. I made a Zoro vs King analysis video, and I explained that the main reason Zoro could not win was because he didn't understand King's race. And when he finally understood King's weakness, Zoro ended the fight fairly quickly. Zoro himself emphasizes this, and never once says that his attacks are too weak. He said, if I can't figure out King's race, I can't win the fight. Whether or not Sanji is stronger than King is still up for debate, but I can comfortably put Sanji in the first commander level of strength. I think Sanji is comparable to people like Katakuri, King, and Marco. So when it comes to Kryptonian Sanji, it's hard to scale his strength based on his fight with Queen. It's a very similar situation with Luffy in Gear 5. Because it came so late in the fight, it's hard to tell how much stronger he's actually become. With his increased firepower, he now has blue flames with lightning emitting off of it. So I think it's safe to say he has by far the hottest flames in all of One Piece. I don't think Sabo or King have flames that really compare to Sanji's, because Oda went out of his way to make Sanji's flame a whole different color on the spectrum, and they are emitting lightning. So it's very obvious that Sanji has the strongest firepower. But until we see Sanji have a full 1v1 battle with his new powers, it's going to be difficult to scale him. However, I think a lot of people are wanking Sanji to absolute oblivion. In my opinion, Sanji is still weaker than people like Zoro and Yamato. Zoro is self-explanatory, and as for Yamato, it is actually just not comparable at all. I suggest you watch my Sanji vs Yamato rant. The story makes it painfully obvious that Yamato is the more powerful character. Suggesting that Sanji is stronger than Yamato is the same as saying Sanji can hold off Hybrid Kaido, when that's literally just not true. And the reason is because of Haki. Just to put this into perspective, let's look at base Kaido. Most people on this island cannot even challenge a base form Kaido, besides Yamato, Luffy, and Big Mom. Just to put it into perspective, base form Kaido one-shotted a first commander level Luffy, and it's obvious this version of Luffy is stronger than Queen. So if Kaido's one-shotting this version of Luffy, Queen is most likely getting one-shotted. And the reason I bring this up is because Sanji has never shown power comparable to this at all. Even with his new power, it took a barrage of attacks to finally drop Queen. Sanji might have great speed and some impressive flames, but the fact is it's not going to be enough to challenge base Kaido 1v1. Kaido only transformed because of how many people he was fighting. In an actual 1v1 fight, none of the rooftop fighters would have defeated him, which is why they jumped him, and even when they split up, they left the 3 strongest people to take on Kaido. So then, Hybrid Kaido proceeds to shit stomp Luffy, Zoro, and Law at the same time, and it was not until Luffy and Zoro unlocked Advanced Conquers Haki that Kaido actually started taking significant damage. And even then, Luffy goes 1v1 and still gets dropped off the island, and then Yamato comes in and steps in for Luffy. There is no universe where Sanji steps in for Luffy and takes on Kaido. There's not even a universe where Zoro does that. Not even Zoro's doing this. So based on the actual feats in the series, Sanji's not comparable to people like Yamato, even in the slightest. Even comparing their suppressed feats, it doesn't get any better. Sanji, while using the raid suit, was trying to stomp out page 1, whereas Yamato, with Sea Prism cuffs on, literally one-shotted ulti. And ulti is obviously stronger than page 1. So even comparing their suppressed feats, Yamato's feats are just way better. And comparing their full power feats, Yamato is still better. The problem with this comparison is that Sanji is fighting Queen, while Yamato is fighting someone who's like 10 times as powerful as Queen. This was never a comparison, and it never will be a comparison. These are 2 different weight classes. Now for the final and most important piece, Haki. The 2 most powerful pirates in the world literally fought using Advanced Conquers Haki, and it blew up the sky. Whitebeard has the power to destroy the world, but when fighting the Pirate King, he decided to use Haki because Haki transcends all. And while Sanji got a bunch of new upgrades, his feats don't actually compare to Zoro or Yamato's. In the future, this could change, but as for right now, I don't see Sanji being equal to either of them. Now, a lot of people will point out that Sanji is more durable and faster than Zoro. I would like to argue that even if you compared Sanji to Marineford Whitebeard, Sanji is more durable and definitely faster than Whitebeard, but Whitebeard is still obviously stronger. Durability and speed are just 2 factors when scaling a character. Kaido is more durable than Whitebeard and Roger and is still not stronger than them because their Haki is more powerful. Kizaru is faster than Roger and Whitebeard, but is clearly not stronger than either of them based on the feats in the series. Now, I could continue to do this for days, but the point is taking a couple of categories of a character and using that to scale them above another character is not enough to completely scale a character's strength. So the way I see it, based on what we saw in the manga, I think Sanji is weaker than Zoro and Yamato. I do think Sanji sits well in the first commander category, and this makes sense. The Pirate King is obviously going to have an above average crew. Looking back at the Roger Pirates, Gabon was able to take on Odin, the same Odin who clashed with Whitebeard, and the same Odin who Whitebeard told his crew to stand back from. And Rayleigh, who was stronger than Gabon, was destroying Marco with 0 effort. And Roger himself says that the Straw Hats will surpass him and his crew, so it makes sense as to why Zoro and Sanji seem to be above their weight class. Sanji's feats are far more impressive than any of the second commanders, like not even close actually, and Zoro's feats are above the first commanders in terms of strength. In fact, even some of the first commanders would have trouble dealing with Sanji. I believe Sanji should be strong enough to defeat someone like Katakuri, so stay tuned for that video. The Sanji vs Katakuri video will be coming out very soon. But to end this video, if Zoro is a 98 and Yamato is an 100, I see Sanji at 96. These are obviously random numbers I decided to use, but I just want to express how I see these characters in terms of strength. So with that being said, if you think Zoro and Sanji are equals, drop a comment down below. And if you agree with me that Zoro is stronger, drop a comment down below as well. I will make updates to this video as the story goes on and we find out more about Kryptonian Sanji. But as for right now, this is all we got. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.